morning. So once again, Bruce Bebox from the Star 94.5 Quiet Storm, and thank you very much for coming out to the 8th Annual African American Men's Health Summit.
Oh, come on, come on. Good morning. You can do better than that. Bruce Bebox, Star. All right, all right. Good morning. You guys well fed? All right, we're going to keep it rolling, too. We got some nourishment not only for your body, but for your mind, and ultimately for your soul as well. Just one word of caution. That you heard that hissing in the background, and you may have thought that that was because the other brother that was up here singing was what they call digitally enhanced. Not so. That was from his true show Nuff. All right? All right. He paid me to say that, and so we're going to collect from him later on. But this is the 8th. Now, you know that the 3rd time is a charm, so this is the 8th Health Summit that the Central Florida Pharmacy Council, along with their partnership supporters, have put on for you brothers, right? Because it's all about you, or all about us, and our health, and trying to get to that point that we call optimum wellness. All of us can do a better job to watch our health and maintain our health care needs. So 3rd time is a charm. What do you think 8 is? Come on, work with me here. 8 is great. Let me hear you say it. 8 is great. This is the 8th time. Speaking of 8, and some of you are more familiar with this than others, show of hands. Let me see the brothers who were here last year. All right, pretty significant. And some of you may have been here for all 8. I think, Chet, my brother Chet, who you guys know, if you've been here, that I idolize. And I'm trying to mimic his every move, so I'm watching you, Chet. All right, now for the family, who is all first time brothers? First time here. Great, all right. Then here's what I need. The seasoned brothers, if you will, that were here last year and the years before, you know that there are 2 most important things that we attempt to accomplish in this summit, and that is, number 1, the health screenings, right, kind of let you know where you stand so you can better gauge yourself, and number 2, the workshops. And then to fuse that all together, we have a dynamic keynote speaker for you today. All right, so we got a wonderful program laid out for you. The 2 things, most important things that you do for us is what? No? You don't know? Well, I'll tell you one of them, and that is the survey. In other words, you let us know how good a job we're doing. In the old days, we used to tell the customer, hey, we're doing a good job for you. Not so. In today's quality world, the customer tells you how good a job you're doing. So we need you to do that, and we need the brothers to teach the younger brothers that are here to fill out this survey and make sure that we get it before you leave. The second most important thing you can do is just a little exercise that I devised. I want you to take your hand, whichever one you choose, and slowly put it in your pocket. And I want you to disregard those coins down there, right? I want you to feel on some of them dollars. Now, I selectively want you to take the biggest dollar denomination you got, move that to the side. But then maybe the next biggest dollar denomination you got, I want you to kind of think about placing that in this money bag. There are going to be 12 of these money bags placed strategically around the hall. And we're hoping by the end of this summit that you will help us fill up this. That's, I think, the first time in our history that we have given you actually the opportunity to contribute back toward this great organization. All right. That's it. Everybody cool with that? All right. Okay, so we're going to keep it moving along. I'm going to bring up to you, this brother is digitally enhanced, and you'll find out why when you listen to his words. I'm going to bring up Orange County Commissioner of District 6, Homer Hardage. Oh, hold on a second. I know.
Good morning.
We'll be right back. Homer Hardage.
To be the honorary chair of the African American Men Health Summit. This is a truly important event, and one that I'm sure will benefit us all. It's my desire to be with you this morning, but I'm not able to be with you personally because of some pressing family matters. Today, I will be traveling with my family to South Carolina to allow my wife an opportunity to visit her family there. And you know, there are many aspects to good health. And if I don't carry my wife home to see her family, I may not have good health. So, I won't be able to be with you today, but I know that this is so valuable, the information that you will receive here today, that you'll be able to learn some of the key health indicators that we must know to make sure that we're able to take care of ourselves better. You know, African American males are in the high-risk categories for many diseases. We're more likely to have diabetes, heart disease, and we're 6 times more likely to die from HIV and AIDS than our white counterparts. We also at a high risk for prostate cancer, and I was one of those high-risk persons. And I found out about prostate cancer at an event very similar to this. I was listening to Les Brown speak about prostate cancer and his problems with prostate cancer. And he said to us at that conference that every male should know his PSA. And at that point, I didn't know a lot about PSA and had very little idea of what it meant. But he pressed upon us the importance of knowing your PSA. It was shortly after that that I took a physical. And I'd finished my physical, and I asked my doctor my PSA. And he, of course, gave it to me. But Les had asked us one other thing. He said, each of you need to know your PSA, and you need to know what your previous PSA was so that you're comparing one number to the other. And so I asked my doctor, I said, well, what was the previous PSA? And, of course, that number wasn't immediately in front of him. So when he looked into that number, he found out that my PSA had changed one whole factor. And when we looked into that factor to see why it had changed by one whole point, we found out that I had prostate cancer. But had I not gone for the physical, I would have still been walking around, still doing my job on a daily basis, much as I do now. But I wouldn't have been aware that I was dying from prostate cancer. So I give you that short story to say that you, too, can save your life and the lives of those you love by taking care of your health. Make sure you get your physical, and don't be afraid of the exam. Some people think the finger is painful, but it's not. I've had the finger myself. And I'll tell you that if you get it, it'll save your life. I encourage you not just to check on your prostate cancer, but to check on your total health. And make sure that you use the many health screening benefits of this conference. And go out and take the information that you learned here today into your communities, into your families. And let's work to make sure that the African American male is healthy and lives long and lives strong. God bless you all. God bless this great conference.
All right, let's give it up. Come on, work with me here, guys. Let's give it up for Brother Homer, who you heard him say it on his own lips, right? Hey, he got to listen to the real deal, the big boss, right? Told him, hey, I expect you to do some things, and he had to live up to those expectations. You guys hear me okay out there? All right, you get those dollar bills ready? In fact, what am I talking about? Dollar bills. I know we're going to start at least with a 5. And the exercise goes something like this. I'll show that again to you throughout the conference, so you'll get that down. All right. Speaking of getting down, we are going to have some more words from Daisy Lynham. She is City of Orlando Commissioner. Daisy is here from what I understand, but she is so fine and awesome that we decided to capture her image on film.
And I want to take just a few moments of your time to welcome you to the annual African American Male Health Summit. It is so important in our community that we try and close the gap in the disparity of the health care that we receive. Let me share with you right now that I am a cancer survivor since 1987. But today we're going to address the concerns affecting African American males, such as prostate cancer, high blood pressure, heart disease, and all of the heart disease complexities that affect our health because of our diet, because of our lack of exercise, and, of course, without receiving proper medical care. The City of Orlando is proud to be one of the sponsors of this event each year, held here at beautiful downtown Orlando in District 5. I want you to take this opportunity in working with Dr. Angela Adams and Dr. Woods to get yourself examined, listen to what the experts have to say, take better care of yourself, and let's all live healthier lives. Thank you and have a wonderful summit.
Let's give it up for Daisy, and if I'm not mistaken, she's right there in our midst. Okay, not done quite yet. We are also, in recognition of the fact that Angela is so busy, we caught her and asked her for a moment of her time so she could make a taped announcement for us too. So, my brothers, Angela Adams.
Welcome you
you to the 8th Annual African American Men's Health Summit. My name is Dr. Angela Adams, and I am the founder of the African American Men's Health Summit. The first summit was started in 1997, where we had 250 brothers, and now look at you, we're more than 2,000 strong. The first summit was started because I had experienced a loss of a dear friend and family member to prostate cancer. And as I looked around, I saw many black men dying needlessly. And so I felt that it was a need for us to get the education out and to encourage African American men to be screened. However, this event could not be successful without the help of the many corporate sponsors that we have enlisted to support the summit. So today, as you walk around and you see our sponsors, please thank them. Also, I'd like to thank the many, many volunteers and the devotion and the dedication that they have given to this summit. So when you see them, I'd like for you to thank them also. And today, I'd like to introduce to you Dwayne Barnes. And I'd like to thank Dwayne Barnes for coming to the summit and allowing us to help save his life. Dwayne, how did you start coming to the summit, and when did you first start coming?
The first year I attended the African American Summit was 2002. I attended there. My brother Joseph Barnes encouraged me the importance of going to have health screening, and I attended the summit and discovered that I had a PAS reading of out of the range. I didn't quite accept it the first year, so I waited and I went again to get a second reading, and I received a second reading, and it was elevating. So I had to go see a doctor to check on my problem, and discovered that the problem that I had was cancerous, and we had decided that, being I was a young man, age 44, that it would be best for them to go ahead and have a removal of it. So this year, about 4 weeks ago, I went on and had the surgery and had my prostate removed because it was cancerous, and I thank God that I able to live today to encourage others to have this testing done. It's very, very important that they have this testing done. I thank my brother and my mother, and most of all God, for sending me to the summit for this testing.
Dwayne, I'd like to thank you for sharing your testimony today, a life-saving story. Hopefully your story will help save someone else's life. Hopefully today the summit will help save someone else's life. And today, brothers, is your opportunity to help save your life and the loved ones. I encourage you to participate in our many workshops that we have. Today, we have a workshop with Mr. Ossie Davis. We have a panel discussion on how to get your groove on and keep it, how to keep the fire burning, the fat truth. We have cooking demonstrations. Also in the exhibit hall, we have more than 50 exhibitors providing cholesterol screening, high blood pressure testing, diabetes screening, prostate cancer examinations. I want to thank our sponsors, who without them, this event would not be possible. And also I'd like to thank our many volunteers that have devoted so many hours and dedication to helping this event. And I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to my mom, who has been with the summit for the last 8 years, who has encouraged me to help our brothers, educate them about their health. And again, brothers, I want to see you back next year. So please take part in the health screening. And lastly, I want to answer the question a lot of you have asked. No, I'm not married. God bless.
Now, I heard she was. We might need her on mic to make that testimony in person. I heard she was. Anyway, let's give it up again for Mother Frances. There was a brother in that video, Dwayne Barnum, and actually Dwayne Barnes, I'm sorry. But there are two more other important brothers. Actually, we're all important, but there were their significance actually lies in the fact that this one particular brother, just like last year, remember Brother Leroy? He had First in Line. We created this little side program called First in Line Privilege because he was the very first brother to register when the door swung open, right, or the phone lines were live. So in this year, it's actually Brother Leroy's taking a step back, and he'll be probably the last in line, right, because Brother Andre Demps. Andre, you in the crowd? Quickly. Ah, there he is back there. You see Brother Andre? Andre, I'm going to need you to work yourself up here just for a quick second, and we'll get to you later. Andre Demps. And if Brother Andre can't fulfill his role or should suddenly grow sick, then we need somebody else to kind of step up. And that person, the second brother to register, was Brother Leroy Parker. So, Brother Parker, why don't you come down front and center, too? All right. And now let's keep it rolling. I have, understand that we're, got one more video to show you, Brother, we got one more video to show you, and then another brother is actually going to sing. He thought, because I got to give up my bag, and he thought that if I introduce you guys with song, that would put you in a more giving spirit. All right? So, hey, we're going to go for it. Hey, I'm going for it. So, okay, the bag's coming around. They told me, Jose, the other 11 are filling up so fast, we need that 12th one, and you got it, so give it up. And so my hint to you is give it up as well. All right? So, Les Brown, video.
Leading cancers in this country in terms of the frequency with which it occurs. It is a major cause of death in men in this country. It disproportionately affects African American men.
Colonel Colin Powell. A lot of men I know, especially those who have survived combat, tend to think that they are invincible. I often take my own good health for granted, but I've had enough friends with prostate cancer to start worrying about it. Not just for myself, but for all men. It's the #2 cancer killer for men, and African American men are especially at risk. 41,000 American men will die from prostate cancer this year. What's scary about this disease is that you can have it and not know it. For many men, there are no symptoms in its early stages when it's most treatable. That's why early detection is so vital. This program will tell you if you are at a higher risk of having prostate cancer. It will introduce you to doctors, patients, and their families. Their advice will help you and your doctor create your very own prostate cancer early warning system. And if you already have prostate cancer, you will also learn about a range of treatments and sources of support that are available.
Father had prostate cancer. His two brothers had prostate cancer. I have several cousins that have prostate cancer. So yes, prostate cancer is in my family. I was going for routine physicals, and the physical always included the digital. When I got transferred to Dr. Karamani's office right away, he followed that up with a PSA, and PSA proved that the count was high, and the biopsy came back.
There is a lot of controversy about screening for prostate cancer. There are some men with prostate cancer who may not need treatment even. And if we mass screen the population, we are possibly screening far too many men unnecessarily. However, there are some men with prostate cancer who, if we pick up on that cancer early enough and treat them, we might be able to improve.
This wasn't supposed to happen to me. I'm positive, I'm upbeat, I'm motivated. I'm the motivator. You know, what am I doing with it? When I went to the doctor to get the examination, because I didn't want to suggest that my listeners do something that I had not done, and I'd missed 2 years. And the guy said, what made you come? I said, I want to know what my situation is because I'm going to report it on the air and encourage other men to come get their prostate examination. He said, well, you want to save lives, right? I said, yes. He said, well, you might have saved your own life. You have prostate cancer. And I was shocked. I said, you got to be kidding. I said, can you give me a second opinion? He said, yes, and you're ugly, too. I just really did not believe it because I wasn't sick. I wasn't showing any type of symptoms. I'm a high-energy person. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I felt that this is something that happened to other people. Surely not me. There must be some mistake. One of the reasons I went public with the disease is because I found a lot of people who came up to me whispering, I have prostate cancer, or I've been diagnosed with it, or I'm a prostate cancer survivor. And to me, it's not a badge of shame. It's a test of your faith. I have an old saying, no test, no testimony. And I said, if I can tell people about my particular situation and it can encourage them to go get a test, then I want to do that. And I'll be glad when they can check our prostate by looking at our ears. There's got to be a better way. Well, when I looked at and checked out the information that was available through the American Cancer Society, and particularly the support groups that men can become a part of, and I've never been a part of the support group before, and my first time going, it was so relieving and so empowering and so awareness raising in terms of the fact that things that I was facing and going through, it's sometimes good to know that you're not going through. When you're in a situation like I am, I'm a public speaker, I'm a motivator, I inspire people to face the challenges of life. And I had a period where I withdrew, and I remember my 16-year-old son, he came in my room, and I had not been out of the room for a while, and I was reading, and he said, Dad? I said, yes. He said, are you going to die? I said, why are you asking me this question? He said, you don't seem like yourself. You're not doing the things that you ordinarily do. You're very quiet, you're withdrawn, you're not going out as much as you used to. And I don't see the fighting spirit that I've always seen in you. Are you going to allow this to defeat you? And I said, no. He said, are you afraid? So I said, why do you ask me that? He said, just tell me, are you afraid? And I said, yes. I said, I've never dealt with anything like this before. And it's a different place than I've ever been before. I am afraid. So he said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight. And I said, and I needed to tell you that I'm afraid. And I want you to know there come some points in your life that you're going to be afraid, and it's okay. And I decided, I'm going to fight. I can handle this.
All right, all right. Now I need you to make some noise, and I'm going to get back to that in a second, but go ahead, let's give it up. Les Brown. You mentioned about, I guess, that all-important finger, and I'm pointing my finger to the back of the room. My brothers, I need for the noise level to really be lowered down 2-3 notches. In fact, I know not everybody in here is a doctor, so I need you to take your cell phones, pagers, turn those things on off, put them on mute, put them on stun, whatever you have to do. I want total silence. That's good. That's close to it. I'll talk to Chet later. But that's really good. Thank you. Next, I want to bring up the brother that's going to sing, and then we're going to have some remarks. And I don't know his name, but we'll learn it, I'm sure, after we hear his wondrous words. Ah, here we go. Your name is, my brother? Chad McKendrick. I get the CD when it comes out. Chad McKendrick does the summit. How can I say thanks for the things you done for me? Things so undeserved, yet you prove your love for me. The voices of a million angels could not express my gratitude. All that I am and ever hope I could be, yeah, I owe it all to thee. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. To God be the glory for the things He has done.
And should I gain any praises, let it go to Calvary. Oh, with his blood, he has saved me. With his power, the Lord reached down and raised me. To God be the glory for the things, for the things, for the things he has done.
Fast, not so fast. That was such a terrific job. You look like you could use a Tropicana, my man. You brothers enjoying this Tropicana out there? You know they don't make this from concentrate, right? That's outstanding. You're going to be in somebody's church tomorrow, and I'm going to be your manager. All right, so do me a favor. Sing a quick commercial about Tropicana. Just real quick. Come on. Come on. Come on now. Come on now. The CD is rolling. Tropicana, very good to the taste. Tropicana is very good to the taste. And skills. Skills. Excellent, excellent. All right, and I appreciate you brothers for taking our word of caution, and you got the noise level just fine. So now I'm going to bring up for remarks John Aguanobi, MD, MBA, and he's a Secretary and State Health Officer for the Florida Department of Health. Howard.
I wish I could sing, but I can't. My name's John Aguanobi, and I am the Secretary for the Florida Department of Health. It is a position that I serve in with great pride because I know it's a privilege. Before I start, there are a couple of elected representatives who I have the privilege of working with in Tallahassee, people that we look to for leadership. I'm going to start with the Senate side. If I could just recognize Senator Tony Hill. He's been a great friend of all of us. And I think I saw Representative Anton, and there he is right there. Good. I don't know if there are other elected officials from Tallahassee here in the room, but I have no doubt that my hosts will point them out a little later. Super. You know, as a physician, I've often been given the honor and opportunity to work with women. I'm a pediatrician, so I work with babies. And I know the power of women and how they look after their babies. But I have to admit that in my family, the woman of the house, my wife Jennifer, she looks after me. She points at me every once in a while and she says to me, "John, have you had your examination this year?" And I always lie and say, "Yes, of course I have." And she says, "No, you haven't. Off you go. I made an appointment for you." She looks after me, she looks after her father, she looks after a couple of her brothers, and she looks after our son. 4 or 5 men that she's responsible for. We should be responsible for ourselves. But I have to tell you, Dr. Adams, looking after thousands of African-American brothers each and every year, you are truly a powerful sister, Dr. Adams. And still not married. I can't believe that. I can't believe that. That is hard to believe. I'm going to keep my remarks short. When African-American brothers come together, there's always power in the room. There's always a sense of, look what we can do. Look what we have done. But I urge you to also recognize that it's an opportunity to look out into the future and say, look what we have to do. Now, you're here, each and every one of you, at a health summit because you're enlightened. You know how important it is to be screened for health. You know how important it is that you look after yourself and your families. That's why you're here. Each and every one of you is an upstanding leader. The fact that you took Saturday morning, woke up early, and came to a health summit proves that. I urge you to do one other thing. After all the festivities are done and the grits are ingested, I urge you to listen carefully for messages that you can take home to your community, to your church tomorrow, to your family this evening, to your community corner, to the people that you see at the store. Pass the message on. There are 2,500 people in this room and the room next door. If you pass that message on, we might touch, before this message is done, 250,000 African-American brothers and sisters across this state. And that's the kind of thing that makes a difference. I applaud the organizers of this particular event because they recognize that African-American men die more frequently from cancer than non-African-American men. They recognize that African-American men get their limbs cut off as a part of their diabetes, sugar diabetes, more often than non-African-American men. They recognize that African-American men don't get all the tests when they go in with a heart attack that non-African-American men get. They recognize that African-American men face health care disparities. Basically what that means is, for some reason, it doesn't always work out as well for African-American men than it does for non-African-American men. And I can tell you, I'm not sure I understand why that is. But I do know that if you each take the message back to the community, it won't be that way forever. It won't be that way for long. I urge you, demand your rights. Fight healthcare disparities. Thank you.
All right, come on. You can do better than that. That was powerful. Not only healthcare disparity, but right in line with his message, last week in Chicago, we heard a startling number. Some 90 million Americans, if you will, are what they might call health illiterate. They simply don't know. So us here, we need to take that powerful message back to our given communities and spread the word. Speaking of spread the word, in fact, this conference actually is spreading like wildfire because some of the reason that the people are illiterate is they claim that they're too scared to ask questions. I'm not. You brothers have shown me that. Just on the way here, because, you know, it's been a year since I was here, so I'm on I-4, and I stopped the car, and I'm asking people, where's the health summit this year? How's Dr. Angela? And everybody started giving me this magical finger we're talking about, right? So your word is just spreading like wildfire. You know, in fact, one gentleman was so excited he got out and he shouted something, and I asked the wife what it was because I couldn't hear him over the people that were beeping their horns, you know. Hey, we're giving it up for the health summit. So I don't know exactly what he said, something about an a-hole or something like that. My wife said she suspected it has something to do with colorectal and something he wanted me to do and pass on to you. So I'm still trying to figure that out, but it's amazing. This program is awesome. All right, enough with that. I'm going to bring you up. In fact, we already been talking about what a powerful young lady she is. And actually, you know, some people's names kind of characterize who they are. And I kind of looked at the name Angela, and if you arrange the letters, and you don't have to do a lot of work, but if you take that A and put it in the front, what do you have? An angel, health angel. Dr. Adams, my brother.
Good morning, my beautiful brothers. I said I wasn't going to lose my voice this year. I did a little bit better. I still have a little of it. But I'm just so glad and so humble that you came out to share your morning with us and to take home a lot of these health messages. But without my sponsors, this wouldn't be possible. Now, the brothers that come today, you are getting services that are valued more than $500 or more. And it's because of our sponsors. And at this time, I want to acknowledge our sponsors.
However, before I do that, I'd like to recognize our public officials today. I'd like to recognize Senator Tony Hill. He came all the way from Jacksonville, and he's ready to take this show on the road. Commissioner Daisy Lynham, Representative Bruce Antoine, the Office of Congresswoman Corinne Brown, Chester Glover, the Office of Commissioner Homer Hardage, Gay Delaudet, Judge Emerson Thompson, Jerry Dimmons, Director of Public Safety, Orange County, former Police Chief of Orlando. I once read that if the problems are in the community, the solutions are in the community. And someone once told me, tell me, I will forget, show me, I may remember, involve me, I will understand. And that's what we're here today, is to involve you so we all can understand and do a better job at our health care. At this time, I'd like to recognize our sponsors. We'll start with, start with our corporate sponsors, the corporate level, MD Anderson Cancer Center, Boehringer Ingham, Ethicon Endosurgery, Heart of Florida United Way, Orlando Marriott, and Public Supermarkets. Our papyrus sponsors are GlaxoSmithKline and Sandy's here. Would you please stand, Sandy? Orange County Health Department, Office of Minority Health, TAP Pharmaceuticals, and the National Cancer Institute, and of course, Tropicana. I think from our bronze sponsors, we have the American Cancer Society. Would you please stand? Florida Department of Health, Dr. Aguanobi and Melvin Herring. Pfizer and the Orlando Times newspaper. Our silver is Orange County Coalition for a Drug-Free Community, Dr. David Robinson, and I'm going to introduce him in a few minutes. Florida Hospital, Orange County Government, and the City of Orlando. Our gold sponsor is AstraZeneca. The next two sponsors levels are the people that go beyond and above the means, and I'd like for them to just to stand and come near the stage so you can see them, and so throughout the day you can just thank them, and along with thanking all of our sponsors. How many of the brothers here heard the promos on Star 94.5, our radio sponsor? I would like for Star 94.5 to just come near the stage so all the brothers can see you at this time. I just want to thank them. Without radio, I know a lot of us are kind of busy and we don't always read the paper, but we'll turn on that dial, and Star 94.5 is my radio station. Thank you. Our next platinum sponsor is Dr. Abraham Woods. We go way, way back in our Navy days when he was a commander and I was a lieutenant. And now I think the roles have reversed. I'm the commander and he's a lieutenant. But would you please stand? He has been with us for 8 years. He has sponsored our summit. And our Platinum Plus sponsor is Orlando Sentinel Communications. Is someone here today from Orlando Sentinel? Well, let's give them a hand anyway. I don't want to steal the thunder of Dr. Woods and Dr. Robinson, but about 3 months ago, I was working on, last year we had Mr. Dick Gregory. He just did a great, outstanding job and presentation, and it's like, okay, Angela, we need to keep it at that level. We need to bring someone with that same magnitude that can entertain the brothers, that can empower them. And, we had these champagne ideas with a beer budget. And one Thursday morning, I went to see Dr. Robinson with working on just planning the summit. And I told him, I said, Dr. Robinson, I would love to have a keynote speaker of national recognition. And he said, Angela, who would you like to have if you just could have anybody? I said, I would like to have Mr. Ossie Davis, but he costs thousands more than I have in my bank account. So at that time, he just picked up the phone. He said, I can make that happen. He picked up the phone and he said, hey, Abe, have you checked your checking account lately? I got something I want you to do. And just with the power of that, they agreed to bring Mr. Ossie Davis. And these two men have made this happen. And at this time, I would just want to, again, thank everybody, thank the brothers. And I see that the brothers have not looked in their bags. Our volunteers spent many hours putting your bags together. And what you have in your bag are our African American Men's Health Summit hats. Now, usually in the past, we have sort of teased you with telling you that if you do the survey, we'll give you your hat. This year, we decided to put the hat in the bag. However, I'm making a plea to you that the volunteers, they gave you the surveys. Those surveys are so important because it tells our sponsors if we're doing our job. And once we do our job, we can go to our sponsors and ask them to continue to support us. So as you leave today, after our dynamic presentation, the volunteers will be at the back of the room, and I need those surveys back. Those surveys drive our summit. Those surveys allow us to provide this nice breakfast, all the screenings, and the accommodations that you have today at no cost to you. So I'm really pleading that you give us the surveys back. You have your hats. I want to see all the brothers with the hats, and also the brothers that will be participating in the workshops will be getting some extra gifts. At this time, before we come up, we're going to have a drawing. I'm not going to have it now, but on your blue cards, everyone should have had a registration card, and you should have put it in a box. And before the session is over, before the exhibit hall is over, we have a $100 gift certificate from the men's toy store, the Lowe's department, home improvement. So we're going to... So we're going to draw that at the end of the day. So make sure that you turned in your exhibit registration form. At this time, again, I just want to thank you, and I want to let me give a couple of shout outs. If you get please take a time to look at the history of the summit, which started 8 years ago, and it started usually in March. I usually take a vacation or take a cruise, but 2 years before the first summit started in 1997, I lost a dear friend, a gentleman that packed me around in the U-Haul from college to college, that when me and my girlfriends would come home from college, would fry us fish, fix us cornbread, all the things that we didn't know how to cook, and I lost him to prostate cancer. And the reason why I lost him to prostate cancer is because once he discovered that he had the illness, he didn't do anything about it. And he kept it a secret. And so his secret took him to his death. And then as I looked around, family and friends, I noticed that I had uncles, cousins that had died from prostate cancer. And I knew then that I had to do something about it. So we started in 1997 with 250 men and me giving up my spring cruise. And I said I would do that there one time. And that year we saved lives. And each year we saved lives. And so my mother inspired me to continue because it was our companion of 27 years that had given his life or had lost his life to prostate cancer. And it's a lot of times that it's hard going out and getting money for the brothers. It's hard, but I won't say no. I won't take no for an answer. So I just want to give a couple shout outs to a couple people that have really been instrumental, and one is my mother. Would you please stand? Frances Adams. She's been at every summit, and before I did the 1997 summit, I knew I had to do a summit or a gathering. When at that time we were going on cruises, and she was going around asking the men about their prostates. So I knew then that I had to spread the word. The other person is a dear friend of mine, and she's been a part of the Men's Health Summit for the last 8 years. And our friendship goes back to when I was a freshman and I was trying to write that first English essay paper. And I think that I know that she is responsible for me continuing to keep writing and to be able to solicit support. Would you please stand, Susan Peacock? And brothers, please, when you see us with our tags, the volunteers, please say thank you to them. They put in a lot of hours. And I see my chairperson walking around. James Crawford, could you please raise your hand? James commuted all the way from Tampa for the last 5 years to help us with this summit. And I just can't thank the sponsors, my volunteers, and you brothers for coming out and supporting the summit. Again, thanks, and God bless.
Hold on.
Now, I know you can do a little bit better than that. Come on now. Let's give a standing ovation. Thank you very much. Dr. Angela Adams, because of what you do and how you do it and how you inspire so many brothers and sisters, because without you inspiring the brothers, we won't have them. So we just want to give you a small token of our love and our appreciation, and we just want to say, on behalf of the 8th Annual African American Male Summit, we want to give you a token of love. Thank you.
All right. We are keeping it rolling. How you feeling out there? Let me do a gut check. All right. I couldn't hear that. What? Somebody said? Round of applause. For this and for this, we say thank you. I only disagree with one little minute detail that Angela mentioned in her talk. She mentioned the fact that she went to the doctors and said, hey, how's your bank account looking? Well, I actually have a confession to make, too. I didn't buy this suit I'm wearing today, my brothers. No, I pulled out my little Discover credit card and I put it on credit. Now the only thing I need to do is discover how I'm going to pay Discover card. But, hey, that's a personal issue. You don't need to get involved in that. What you do need to get involved in is what's coming up before you. And this gentleman is so awesome that it required not one, but 2 doctors to introduce him. You kind of recognize the enormity, the complexity, the magnitude that I'm talking about? Well, let me not further deliberate. I'm going to bring to the stage Dr. Abraham Woods, MD, Center for Urology, and Dr. David Robertson, MD, Florida Hospital. Let's give it up, gentlemen.
tell you, that Thursday that Angela came to me, it was, you can't hear me. The day that Angela came to me was a day that clearly there was a need. And last year's the summits have been getting better and better every year. And clearly this year we wanted to definitely make a difference. And we feel that with the caliber of the speaker that we brought today, that will happen. But, you know, the same way when I called Abe and said, Abe, I need some help, the same thing happened that day. I said, Abe, I have a problem. Angela's asked me to introduce the speaker. I said, you know, how do you introduce a Renaissance man? How do you introduce a man for all seasons? And how do you introduce a living legend? And I didn't have an answer.
Oh, Dr. Robinson, all I can say to you, you got a problem. I mean, this man is a giant of a man. And when we think about a man that has eulogized a Malcolm X, a Martin Luther King, you got a problem, man.
But Abe, it's more than that. This man is a voice that has been heard all over America. He's all over the world, to say. He's been on radio, he's been on television, he's been on Broadway theater, he's been a big supporter of education. Tell me.
Oh yeah, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. But what would his mother say? How would his mother introduce him? You know, his mother called him R.C.
You mean R.C.?
I'm not British, R.C.
I thought it was R.C.
It's a southern thing, Ossie. But what would she say?
Well, if she were to say something, she might say, well, son, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. I had tacks in it, it had splinters and boards torn up, and places with no carpet on the floor, just bare. But all the time, I've been climbing on, reaching landings and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't turn back, 'cause you find it hard. Don't you fall now, for I'm still going and still climbing, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair.
Ooh, that's powerful, man. Because in this living legend, as I would look back in history, I would think of a poem that just exemplifies his walk. You know, brothers, out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the full clutch of circumstance, I have not winced, not cried aloud. Under the bulgingings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade. And yet the minutes of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Well, Abe.
Yeah, I feel it, brother.
I'm telling you. With all that, how do we go about introducing an actor,
a director,
a writer,
a civil rights activist,
a father,
a husband,
and an all-American legend?
A Southern legend, brother. Our speaker.
Let's introduce him, Mr.
Ossie Davis.
I've never been exposed to a double-barrel introduction like that before. And I want the brothers to know that I deeply appreciate all that you said and how kind you were and the things you didn't say. Brothers, sisters, friends, it's an exciting moment in history for me, which I'll explain in a moment. But as I look at this gathering, the first thing I say to myself is, there was a time in our history when if all of us were gathered together like this, we would be arrested and put in jail. It was against the law for more than 2 or 3 black people to get together in the days of slavery and sometimes after, because those who oppressed us recognized that once we got together, once we reached out and touched each other, once we looked each other in the face and in the eyes, and once we accepted the fatherhood of a God who never turned his back on us, we had a power that could not be stopped. And there were those who could not abide us having that power. Your presence here today, under the aegis of the Florida Council, what is the title? Pharmacy Council, and Sister Dr. Angela Adams, is one of those signal moments in our history. I feel good. Whatever the problem is, whatever the future holds, I know that once we decide to stop running and stop fumbling and stop fighting and turn and assemble one with the other and seriously concern ourselves with taking care of business, there is nothing with God's help we cannot accomplish. Our presence here, therefore, is history-making. What you do serves the purposes which brought you here individually, but also you set an example for the rest of African Americans in our country to begin to use the powers that we have to take care of the problems that we face. I thank you for inviting me. My mama thanks you for inviting me. My mama, who is 105, does I depend heavily upon her for wisdom and advice from time to time. And one of the last things she told me when I was asking her what wisdom I should share among my brothers and sisters in Florida, she said, well, tell them what I tell you. It's all right to get old, but don't get ugly. So I do hope that you run into Mama. Don't tell her how ugly I done got since we last met each other. This symbolizes so much. I wish I could put in words, in the short time that I have, what I feel to be the importance of what it is you are doing now. Obviously, health is of great importance, both to the individual and to the society. But once again, I refer to the fact that you have brought yourselves together and you have bound yourselves together. And for 8 continuing years and growing, you have begun to see what powers reside in each of us as long as we have access to the love and support of the others. We are a wonderful people. We are a magnificent people. I don't know anybody who could have been brought over here in chains and not only built this country, but also built a life for themselves and are able to sit here today as free men and women deliberating on some aspects of their situation, prepared to do what it takes to solve our problem in our own way with the resources that we have at our disposal. We know that there are medical problems in our community, and sometimes we forget where those medical problems came from. But there isn't a medical problem from which we suffer that is not tainted by the fact that we came here first oppressed as animals, chained and shackled, and lived in a culture that despised us for generations. The fact that we survived at all is a miracle. That we survived well enough to talk. And here we are talking about health. The very fact that we ain't all dead is enough to make us all stand up and shout and say hallelujah. And I'm glad to be here this morning. Hallelujah indeed. Now there are reasons why the African American male suffers so much from the rigors of living in American society. Why we die in larger numbers, and why the things that affect everybody sometimes affects us first and affects us twice as hard. Let me give you just a small picture, which, if you think about it, will begin the explanation. In the family, in the past, living as we did in poverty, which meant a black man with no job, often having to live off the bounty of the woman who was the wife and mother of his children, with nothing from his own pockets to put on the table. Sometimes the only contribution he thought he could make was not to make trouble or be of any trouble to anybody else. If he had a pain, it would be private. If he had a need, it would be last to be addressed. He would say no to himself in order to say yes to his wife and to his children. And that was the cultural context in which our men functioned in the past in our society. And it got to be a habit for us as men to grit our teeth and grin and not let anybody know where the pain was or how much we hurt. No, I want it for my wife. No, I want it for my children. Don't bother about me. I'm all right. I'll make it. I'll get by. God will see me through. And in many cases, this was how it happened. So we grew up in a culture of self-denial. Self-denial being the only way we could show to our women, our children, and to the world that we cared. And that's why we cultivated the habit of being tight-lipped and tight-mouthed and not saying where the pain was or how much we hurt. Well, now things have changed. Things have changed for the better. We are creating a new way of being black in America. And we therefore need to create a new lifestyle to address our problems. We meet today, particularly black men in this summit, to begin to say to ourselves, there is a new way for us to show our love and our care for our families. We don't have to say no to ourselves in order to say yes to them. As a matter of fact, it's a form of cowardice for us to die so early and leave the women with the job of taking care of the children. We owe it to them as well as to ourselves to be as healthy as we possibly can. And if we get together, if we begin to reach out and touch each other and rely on the power we hold in common, we can begin to solve the problems we couldn't solve when we stood alone. So this is an era and an age of change for us. A short while ago, some of you are old enough to remember when we were still Negroes. And the world was defined by laws that segregated, that separated, that gave us a separate place in America. We were second-class citizens. We were not equal to the rest of the American populace. And under those circumstances, we did devise the best culture we could, the best way of surviving that we could, making do with what we had, even when we didn't have it. But we, thanks to our effort and the help of God and the Supreme Court decision of 1954, have changed all that. We've decided that though we did well as Negroes and are proud of what the accomplishment was, there's a new definition that we want the world to think about now. We don't call ourselves Negroes anymore, not because we are ashamed, but because we want to recognize a new situation, a new condition. We call ourselves African Americans, which means we stand side by side with those who call themselves Irish Americans, or English Americans, or German Americans, or Jewish Americans. We are equal in our attachment and belonging to America. We stand shoulder to shoulder with those in terms of our rights and in terms of our position in this particular society. So now, having achieved on the basis of the accomplishments that we have made politically and economically, we begin to change the other aspects of our lives. We reach out to the black brother and say, no, come, we don't want you to face it alone. No, we don't want you to bear the burden of pain and anguish by yourself. No, let's get together. There are many things we can do if we get together and begin to solve our problems. And so it is, we begin to reach out to the brother and pull him out of the shadows toward the center of the stage and say, those pains that you had, those illnesses that you suffer, they are not yours alone anymore. You belong to a community. You belong to a group. You belong to African Americans. And whatever we are in together. The question of health not only affects you as a private individual, it affects your family, it affects your community, it affects the world in which you live. So when you think now, think not only of yourself as an individual, but think of yourself as a part of a country and a culture that ultimately embraces the entire world. It's a new vision of ourselves that we were on the verge of creating. And this summit of men in Orlando on this Saturday morning, as an is an important part of the new vision we are having of ourselves and the new respect we are demanding that the world pay us, and the new attention and the new attention we deserve on the basis of the contributions that we have made. But let me back up just a little bit. I didn't give you the bottle spilled, yeah? I just want you to know that the water came from the bottle. And not because I'm incontinent. Those of you who have prostate problems will appreciate what I'm talking about. But let me, I apologize for what Mama's going to say when she finds out I came to Orlando and couldn't hold my water. You know, I thank you, sister. I thank you, sister, and I apologize. Let me tell you a little of my own history and how I am involved in the world of medicine in a very personal way. I was a member of the 25th Station Hospital in World War II, a part of the group that formed the first black station hospital ever authorized by the American Army. And we built a hospital in Liberia, West Africa, during the war. I was a surgical technician. I was head of the surgery ward. This was in 1942. And it was at that time I got into the habit of regular consultations with doctors, because those of you who've been in the Army know that every once in a while, you know, you have to report to the doctor and get the examination, which included not only the finger, but whatever else the doctor might want to throw at you or up or stick into you in those days. And when I came out of the service, I thought for a while I would try and become a male nurse. So I applied at a hospital in New York, Montefiore. And they worked upon my application because as a veteran, they were going to make exceptions. So the chances were that had things gone as I first wanted them to go, I would have become a male nurse. I was young enough at that time to consider going on, picking up my college education, and maybe becoming a doctor. But I got a call to the theater, and that's where I went. And I never went back to the hospital as a male nurse. However, in the theater, I had to join a union, and that union had pension and welfare. And a part of welfare was that we members were also members of health institutions where we could go and get examined twice a year and have our medical needs met. So, as a young man, just married, my wife and I, both actors, came into the union in New York, and every year we would go to Montefiore, where they had one of these groups, health groups, and get our examination, which always included the finger. So I was protected certainly from that end. but we also got shots. And if there were other medical problems that we had, they would be attended to. So it was my good fortune since 1942 to have been closely associated with a medical institution where all of my needs were met. I took it for granted that all of the things I wanted, including getting a splint out of my finger, all I had to do was go to the hospital and get it taken care of. And to this day, I'm still affiliated with that group at Montefiore Hospital. That was, as I said before, in, 45 or 46, whatever. No, I'm sorry. And from 1950 to this day, I'm still a member of that organization. So every year, I've had at least 4 medical examinations. My family, my children, my wife and I hop in the car, make an appointment, go, get ourselves examined. Heart, lungs, teeth, everything, sugar, blood, sputum, feces, and it's a regular part of our regimen. And so it is. I stand before you today, an 86-year-old man, and some of that age certainly was helped or given to me by the fact that I had this medical discipline that was that was such an essential part of my own life. Now, right now, what you see really is a stack of leftovers. I went to Vancouver in 1900 to do a film. And while I was there rehearsing, I passed out and woke up in the hospital. I had a urinary tract infection. And the doctors in Vancouver told me, you know, you'd better go back home and see your doctors. Well, I came all the way across the country, went back to Montefiore, did all the CAT scan and stuff, the sonograms, and they say, you got a growth on your kidney, and we're gonna have to take it out. So I wound up short of a kidney. Later that year, my prostate had been giving me problems, so the doctor decided, there I go again, the doctor decided that an operation was due. I went in the hospital, it was taken care of. I subsequently had problems with my heart, and I'll go to the doctor. He sends me to a specialist, and I began a regimen of medication upon which I am still engaged. And a short while ago, since the time I agreed to do this engagement, I wound up finding it necessary to have a pacemaker implanted in my bosom. And after I had the pacemaker, I began to worry. I said, wow, I'm up there in a plane and this thing ticking in my chest. Maybe I better stay home. You know, maybe I'm, you know, I'm too busy out there jumping up and down. But the medical care that I needed was always there. I got the pacemaker. And then one afternoon, lying down for my nap, I wake up and the room is going in 10 different directions. I can't even stand up. I have a severe case of vertigo and a ringing in my ear. I am nauseous to the point of vomiting. And the doctor, I called the doctor. He called the pharmacist and they gave me some medicine for the vertigo, which went away, but the ringing never did. When I went back to the doctor for the ringing, now next week I gotta go and get a hearing aid because this ear ain't working anymore. So I apologize to all of you for just bringing you what's left of Ossie when I when I made the agreement and signed the contract, I was a whole person. But you're just getting what's left over, but that's the best that I can do. And I apologize for that. I tell you this long story primarily because it indicates why I should feel so important about constant medical involvement in your own history. You know, I am exceedingly lucky, I didn't know it at the time, that my union insisted that I have constant medical attention. And to this day, you know, I now have Medicare to pay for something, and if Medicare doesn't pay for it, the Screen Actors Guild pays for it, and if they don't pay for it, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists pay for it. Someone else pays for this stuff. So I'm very lucky. But more than luck, of course, is involved in what I'm talking about. I'm talking now about health care and how it affects us all in more ways than the personal pain that one of us might feel. Already we mentioned it today several times, you know, how prostate cancer seems to affect black men more than anybody else. Well, there are environmental and historical reasons why that is so. Oppression, slavery, bad habits coming from having to live in poverty. All of these things exact a heavy price, and they are black men still paying dues, even though the chains and shackles have been struck off. We still pay the price of racism and slavery in our society. And one of the prices we pay, one of the prices we pay expresses itself in medical terms. And that's why we have medical problems, you know, in a sense that nobody else has had or has had to attend to, and we need to do something about that. And therefore, when I see or hear that there are groups in various places who begin to understand the common nature of our affliction, who begin to understand that what we suffer from, in addition to being personal, always has social implications and cultural implications with which we must deal, it makes my heart feel good. I know that we as a people are on the rise. I know that we are, as a people, are beginning to assemble ourselves to respond to our problems. And it couldn't happen at a better time. We come at a time when many changes are taking place in the world. Things are happening which have never happened before, which have medical implications. And if we are to defend ourselves from these things, we have to begin to be responsible for that defense. There's the question of AIDS in Africa and other places. And not only that, things like mad cow disease and other medical problems which we find. The problem of drug addiction, which is also a medical problem. These problems are there. These are the things waiting to grab us and our children. These are the things about which we have to be vigilant, begin to think, study, and prepare ourselves and take care. A lot of people think that we look upon ourselves as victims, that we're a bunch of people sitting around waiting for white folks to come along with the answers to our problems. But your presence here proves that that is not the case. When we have the opportunity, when we have somebody who cares, like Dr. Angela, and somebody who has the gumption to begin to pull things together, we know what to do. We know how to respond. And that's the good part of it. So as I am, as I said, 86 years old now, and I can begin to see a little bit on the other side of the hill that you can't quite see yet, I feel confident. I feel happy because I'm knowing that even as I leave, behind me, the new ones are coming, and they see things differently, and they see things better, and they are prepared to take actions to help out. So this new way of being aware how health and wealth and our position in society are all wrapped in together. This new way of looking at our situation condition, to me, is a bright sign. It's a sign that we can, as Dr. King says, overcome. But now let me slip a little further back than that. When I was a boy, my father, who was an uneducated man, had remembered from his father some of the herbal remedies that his father had brought all the way from Africa. And so ultimately, my father in Waycross, Georgia, became an herbal doctor, an herbalist. You know, I don't mean conjure and roots and things like that. Not that kind. But I mean, you know, those herbs and teas that you find with this root and with that berry. He became very good at that. And in the very middle of the Depression, when there was no work out there, he quit the little job he had, and he became an herbalist. He had an old Ford car, and he would go into the surrounding bushes and Waycross and various places, and I would go with him, and he would show me which root to dig up, which plant, which flower, and what that did. And I would dig it up, put it in the sack, we'd take it home, and then he'd throw all the clothes out of the wash pot, making Mama very mad, and put in some clean water and throw his roots in there. And then he would put in some ginger, then he'd put in some sulfur, then he would put in some magnesium sulfate, you know, and he would stir it and cook it, and it would all turn beautifully purple. And then when it was done, he would put it in bottles, and he had a label with his picture on it, and then he would put it in boxes. And he and I, in that old car, would drive out into the country. Now, as I said before, it was Depression. Nobody had any money. And out in the backwoods, there wasn't a doctor even for white folks. You can imagine what it was for black folks. So, and Daddy, who couldn't read, was somehow was a Bible scholar. He had committed the whole Bible almost to memory. And a part of my job was, since I had gone to school, was to be his caddy. I'd have the Bible in one hand and the box of medicine in the other. And he would come to a little village and speak to somebody, and they say, yes, he's not feeling so well. He lives over there, and he was sort of waiting until you come, because, you know, he's not doing so well. And Daddy would go over there and talk to the man or to the woman, and then he would prepare to do medication. Now, Daddy's medicine was quite simple. What he did was to heat the medicine and give it to the patient, and then put every blanket, every quilt he could find on top of the patient, and wait till the patient sweated. And normally, once the patient sweated, the patient did feel better. You know, it wasn't foolish. It was, you know, it was good pharmacological science. We found out later when my brother went to school and became a pharmacist, you know. But Dad's treatments was extended to whoever was sick in the family. And at the end of it, since there was no money, they would pay Daddy with a pig or a chicken or some okra or some corn or some whatever, and Daddy would put it in the car, and we would drive back home to Waycross where Mama was waiting with an open, empty pot to put all that stuff in and make us, some dinner. This is how we worked it. This is how we survived. Wasn't a dime, as I said before, nowhere. On one occasion when Dad was gone and everybody was hungry, there was a young white farmer driving an old pickup, and he had a cow head on it, and he drove down into the black folks' quarters where we lived, trying to sell that cow head. He wanted 25 cents, but he would take 15, but he couldn't make a sale on that. And he came to Mama, and Mama was standing in the door, and all of us children standing around hungry, and Daddy somewhere out there with his medicine in the bushes, and Mama took a real liking to that cow head, but she didn't have the money. So she tried to persuade this young white farmer to let her have the cow head, and that if he would let her have the cow head, he could come back next week and she'd give him the money. Well, the young white farmer was mad. He was strictly cash and carry where black folks were concerned. He got mad with Mama, and he didn't cuss Mama, but he really gave her a dirty look the way she said, put his cow head back on the truck bed of his pickup and dashed off down the road. Well, just beyond the house, there was a culvert, where a pipe went under the road and a bump in the road. So he was so angry that he sped over it, zoom. And when he did, the truck bounced up. And when the truck bounced up, the cow head bounced up. And before the cow head could hit the ground, my brother and I were there. We picked this sucker up. And we took the cow head a half a block away back to the house where Mama was waiting. And we built a fire, and put the water in the pot and dumped in the cow head. Well, a cow head is not very helpful when you're cooking it, It resists efforts to make that sucker tender, And Mama boiled it, and then she put in some okra, and then put in some tomatoes and boiled it. No, in the beginning, they had taken out the cow's tongue, which was good, but they left the eyeballs in. And in the pot, the eyes would be looking up at it. So, we said, too late now, cow, too late. It's you or us. So it took about 2 days, but finally, man, Mama had a cow head like you wouldn't believe. And by that time, Daddy came back anyway, and he had a few other little goodies, and we fed ourselves. But my father, we called him Dr. Davis even to this day, but as a boy, watching him, how he related to people, how he related to patients, I discovered something about him and medicine even then. As I told you, he had the Bible also. So when he gave the people the medication and they were lying in the bed sweating, he would be sitting there talking, and then he would say, son, go to Psalms chapter 37, verse 10, and read 10 verses. So I would get the book and read it, and then he would begin to explain all the things in the Bible, what God meant, what the devil was up to, why Moses did this, why Abraham did that. And it all was a part of the medication. And once the fever went down, and once everything cooled off, and he took the patient out and gave the patient a bath, the patient would feel very good and fix us a nice meal, and we'd drive on off to the next assignment. Now, that was the kind of doctor that Daddy was, and I knew I could never be that kind of doctor. So I never followed a medical career. I did have some interesting experiences in Liberia, West Africa, as a surgical technician, but we won't go into that. We'll talk about that another time. Let me close by once again reiterating the importance of what it is we do here today, and my deep appreciation that you've allowed me and my grandson, who's sitting over here, who is my associate and my future, who's come because he too is beginning the long path that I have trod, and I'm happy, you know, as I go to leave behind those who are going to take charge. But I look at you, I see in your face as understanding, I see determination, and I'm relieved. I'm happy. It's dark out there now. Many awful things are possibly going to happen. I don't know about Africa, what they're doing over there, and I'm deeply disturbed by what we are doing in Haiti and in our own communities. When 4 weeks ago I read in the New York Times that 1 out of every 2 black people in New York are unemployed. I know that has a medical effect and other effects somewhere down the line. I know that there are many troubles upon us, and I know there are many things that's going to hit us, some for which we're not this moment prepared. But if whatever happens, and however it happens, if we can have access to each other and to God, if somebody like Sister Angela Adams can pull us together and give us a chance to consult with one another, I'm sure we can come up with the answer to whatever problem there is. I am a young man, just 86, but I have been black long enough to know that, and I thank you.